required class from the district. And if you guys got this, I always like to use a little bit of an agenda. You know when it's getting ready for the end of this lecture. Okay, so that's always a good thing. You would hate that there's 27 points when you get to 19 and you think it's about done. So if you want to follow along, make notes, please do. Okay, welcome. The social principles of the United Methodist Church states that children must be protected from economic, physical, and sexual exploitation and abuse. Tragically, churches have not always done a very good job on this. Child abuse and exploitation do occur in churches, both large and small, urban and rural. Problem cuts across all economic lines, all cultural lines, all racial lines. God calls us to make churches safe places, protecting children, youth, and vulnerable adults. This policy was originally written in 2003 and then updated in 2010. And I do have to stand here with all these lights because we do have to tape this, because those volunteers that come in between now and the next time we offer the class get to watch the video. So at least you guys get to hear it live. All right. If I can have somebody read one of the favorite verses of children's ministry. Who would like to read this? Go right ahead, thank you.
Luke 9:46 and 48. An argument started among the disciples as to which of them would be the greatest. Jesus, knowing their thoughts, took a little child and had him stand beside him. Then he said to them, "Whoever welcomes this little child in my name welcomes me, and whoever welcomes me welcomes the one who sent me. For he who is the least among you all, he is the greatest."
Our Christian faith calls us to be both hospitable and protectors of the little ones, the children, the youth, and the vulnerable adults. Jesus said, "Let the children come to me." And then he taught them. Jesus let the adults know that children are important and women are important. Until that time, and unfortunately in many other areas throughout the world, women and children are valued only because they are a possession, not because of the individuals that they are. They are viewed as property. Providing for children in our churches is answering Jesus' call to let the children come to him and learn about him. Providing for the children in the churches allows us to come together as a community of faith, as a safe haven, as a sanctuary, like big churches call it. It's really a sanctuary where youth, children, and vulnerable adults can be strengthened in the way that they lead their lives and where they can learn how to have eternal life. Since the gospel calls us to engage in this ministry, we cannot allow the risks that go along with child abuse and exploitation and the bad things that happen within our church to deter us from teaching the children. Rather, we have to acknowledge the risks. We have to take steps to prevent the risks. And we have to continue to answer God's call that it's imperative that we teach the children, the youth, and the vulnerable adults. Child protection is very, very personal to me. I have been in children's ministry for about 20 years. And unfortunately, the worst of the worst has happened. None of us wants to think of the unimaginable happening, but it does. I've also seen where very caring teachers and adults have helped stop child abuse and sexual exploitation within the church. We also need to be the safe adults that children feel comfortable talking to about situations at home. We're the ones that have to notice the bruising, the ones that have to go that extra mile and know the children so that we can hear their cry for help when nobody else is listening. That's why this is very important to me. it can happen. The Hillsborough County statistics say 1 in 10 children suffer from child maltreatment. 1 in 16 suffer from sexual abuse. That is from Hillsborough County Florida Department of Children and Families, 2013. This tells us that of the 200 children and youth that come on a Sunday morning, we not only have some children that experience this, it's almost statistically impossible for us not to have them. Child abuse cases reported, in over 80% of the cases in Hillsborough County, the parent was the perpetrator. Falls, 45% were males, the fathers, 53% were females. Scary statistic. National statistics, 2.9 million is the number of reported child abuse cases every year in the United States. That is 7,945 per day. That is 331 per hour, and 6 reported child abuse cases every minute of every day in this country. Now, 17% of those reports came from teachers, which is tied with the top reporting cases between teachers and police officers, law enforcement. That's why we need to know this stuff. And what's even scarier is within the church, 93% of sexual child offenders describe themselves as religious. Convicted child molester said, and I quote, "I consider church people easy to fool. They have a trust that comes from being Christians. They tend to be better folks all around and seem to want and to believe in the good that exists in people." When I read this, I found it very chilling and should justify the time that we're here today. I know there's probably 50, maybe 100 other things you'd rather be doing right now. But this really, really is important. Reasons to implement a child abuse prevention strategy. Our child is a community of faith. Our church is a community of faith. Safe haven. Sanctuary. We need to be able to advise. We need to help them. We need to nurture all the children, the youth, and the vulnerable adults. Our church is a place that's more than just where you could just hear about the facts or teaching about child abuse. This is a place we get to teach the gospel. We get to teach them about love and compassion and justice, mercy and grace. We get to teach them about God's love. Our church is a place where children can come and learn and develop the inner strength and their spiritual resources so that they can really, truly develop a relationship with God. And our church is a place where children and adults should be able to come and learn how they can handle even painful situations and confusing things, confusing parts of their life, using the wisdom of the scriptures. And just in case you don't know, United Methodist Church describes a child as anyone 11 years of age and younger. A youth is anyone who is between 11 and under 18 years old and graduated high school. That way it covers the youth that have October, November, December birthdays that turn 18 in their senior year, and they are still considered a youth all the way until they graduate high school. Just in case you didn't know. Okay, so what is abuse? Physical abuse. Violent, non-accidental, resulting in an injury. This includes, but is not limited to, striking, biting, shaking. Injuries include bruises, fractures, cuts, and burns. Bad news. We need to notice these things. Emotional abuse. A pattern of intentional conduct which crushes the child's spirit and attacks their self-worth through rejection, threats, terrorizing, isolating, and belittling. Sexual abuse. Any form of sexual activity with a child, whether at church, at home, or any other setting. The abuser can be an adult, an adolescent, or another minor. Reporting child abuse. If child abuse is suspected or observed, it's a moral imperative, if not a legal obligation, to report the child abuse to the Child Abuse Hotline. It's their job to investigate it. It's not yours. It's theirs. Call them. Tell us, and we'll call together. We will be happy to make a phone call together, make a report together. Florida Statute 39.201, entitled Mandatory Reports, states that any person who knows or has responsible cause or reasonable cause to suspect that a child is abused, abandoned, or neglected by a parent, legal custodian, caregiver, or other person responsible for the child's welfare as defined in this chapter shall report knowledge and suspicion to the department. In our child protection policy, Section 8 tells you all about how to go about reporting. It's not a question of if you do it. If you have a reasonable suspicion, come to us, we'll help you, we'll do it together. Okay, so who are abusers? Absolutely anyone. Every racial, ethnic, economic, or social group. Matter of fact, they look a whole lot like us, charismatic leaders. They can be very social, very sympathetic to troubled children. You can't really just say who is going to be an abuser. Abuse is all about power and vulnerability. Lord Acton from Britain told us that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So let's look at a couple examples. Some of the most common abusers. How does a parent have power over a child? This is the time when we get to talk.
In every way. They're their provider, they're with them often.
Just about every way. They provide for them, or they don't provide for them. They punish them. They give them, things. Yeah, parents have absolute power over their children. How about a relative or a close friend of the family? How would they have power over a child?
Peer pressure.
Peer pressure, yeah. Be nice to weird Uncle Ralph.
Familiarity.
Ah, there's the biggie. Familiarity. Yeah, they're around a lot. They're okay, they hang around, they like kids, it's okay. Maybe not, but they have that power. Hey, if you tell anybody, you're going to get in major trouble. Your mom's going to be so mad at you if you tell them what I did to you. That's power. How about a teacher? Does a teacher have any power over a child? Huh? Pardon? Grades, right? And here at church? Affirmation, friendliness, rewards. Teachers can have a lot of power over a student. And even a church volunteer in other capacities. Think they have any power whatsoever over a child? Yeah, you're an authority figure. Absolutely. As I said, child abuser comes in every racial form, economic, age. They can be married, they can have children, they can be young, they can be older adults. So how does abuse happen? Well, abuse happens when they exert power over a child and they harm or exploit them. The abuser is powerful. The child is vulnerable. Okay, let's go through those same steps again. If a parent has absolute power over a child, how does that make the child vulnerable? How is a child vulnerable to a parent? Totally dependent. Totally dependent. And they're with them all the time. You know, and their reality of whatever it is happening could be just assumed as being normal because that's what they're around all the time. What about a relative or close friend? How is a child vulnerable to a relative or close friend? Pardon? They're trusted. That's right. They're trusted. Authority figure. Familiarity. How about a teacher? How is a child vulnerable to a teacher or volunteer? Still have the trust factor. Authority. Children want to please. They want to be accepted. Right? There's also the physical factor with all of these. Adults are bigger than kids. They have knowledge. They have money. They have ways of honoring them or dishonoring them. That can have a lot of power over a child. So, in learning how to handle this and learning how to deal with this, we need to, within the classrooms, maintain a positive classroom environment. So, becoming aware is the first step. Aware of what's going on. Again, it's statistically impossible for us not to have any children affected by any of these things with as many children as we have coming to church here on Sundays. Now the next step is to make sure we don't let it happen here by maintaining a positive classroom environment. Okay, general rules throughout the United Methodist Church. These are not guidelines, these are rules. One screened adult must always be present, background checked, and reference checked. That's a screened adult. Each room set aside for children or youth should have a door or a window. That's why you see so many windows, even in maybe some odd places. If possible, use rooms with half doors for toddlers all the way to second graders, or within our special needs community sometimes within their group also, to cut down on runners. Follow the two-person rule, which is to have at least two people in any classroom or any setting. Classroom, obviously, is classroom. Setting is everything else. Everything from being in here from kids' church, being in here from friend zone, your choir practice for special connections, praise team practice, all those things are considered settings. So you still have to have two adults, preferably both screened or a screened volunteer and a staff member. So, supervision of the classroom. This is crib, babies, toddlers, all the way up to second grade. At least one screened adult should be present for all classroom activities. If possible, there should be two screened adults. If two adults are family members, here's something you probably never thought of. If the two adults are family members, a third adult is preferred to be in the room. Okay, supervision of classrooms. This is 3rd to 5th grade. At least one screened adult will be present at all classroom activities. Children should be escorted to and from the restroom by one of the supervising adults or designated floater with a third person. So we have the bathroom rule, which is a 3-person. And if you have 2 kids and a screened adult, that's okay. So long as you're in a hallway and you're not in the bathroom with them. Two adults are not available, the doors should remain open. And for grades 6 through 12, at least one screen adult will be present. Okay. Y'all are so quiet. Y'all are still with me, right? Okay, just check. You're so different than a bunch of kindergartners to fifth graders. Okay. Appropriate discipline. You know, when I was a kid, I was actually shocked to find out discipline and punishment were not the same. In my household, it was. But according to Webster, and yes, I actually am old enough to have one of the big books, Webster defines discipline as training that develops self-control, character, and efficiency. That's what we want to do in our classrooms. We want to be positive and, and encouraging, and redirect, and redirect, and redirect. I mean, that is the best possible thing that you can do, is to redirect. Mention how good somebody is behaving. Wow, you are being so good, you're paying attention. I really appreciate that. I really have eye contact with you. I appreciate that. Kids, oh, yeah, okay, I'm going to say that to me. Happens. It really does. Discuss the rules and the consequences, the expectations that are within your class, within your individual group. And it can be fun. I know it's really weird, but rules and consequences are one of the favorite parts of kids' church. We have either the minions from Despicable Me, or puppets, or various other characters come out and do the rules and consequences. And in case you don't know what those are, I'm going to tell you. So you can enjoy them too. I am not going to have the minions come out. If I was smart, I would have had that. I know! You should have the minions. Kids love them. Okay, so they will repeat back. You say the rules and the consequences, and they repeat them back. So we know that they actually heard you and that they actually understood them. Now, obviously, lots of different circumstances, lots of different classroom settings are different. But if you let them know your expectations, then they know how to meet your expectations. Okay, rule number 1, respect God, His house, and all the scientific equipment in it. We're on a science theme right now. Okay, listen when others are talking. Ask a rock star if you have a question or an equation. Keep your hands, feet, and all your elements to yourself. No picking or clicking. And you gotta have fun and please God. Consequences. We will remind you. We will move you. We will move you to the black abyss of the bathroom. We will get your parents to remove you to another laboratory. And I can say I've been doing kids' church many, many years, and in all honesty, in all those years, there's only been one time that a parent has had to come get a child. All you have to do is remind them. If they know what the expectations are, and you remind them and ask them, am I going to have to remove you? Am I going to have to move you over there by yourself? No. Rules and consequences work phenomenally well. If they know what the expectations are, then they can meet them. It enables the children to develop internal control. It fosters their growth. And it brings much manageability to the classroom. So, age-level characteristics. Again, knowing what to expect from each group, each age level, then that will help you know what to expect. Each level has its own unique characteristics, but you can plan for them. And the more, this produces more learning and less disciplinary issues. You know what to expect. Now, age X level characteristics are not necessarily applicable to our special connections to children. We realize they grow on their own timeline. but we still believe that we need to encourage their moral and faith development. So wherever they're at, that's getting to know your children, the children that you're responsible for, or youth, or adults. Okay, ages 3 to 6. Moral development. Well, of course, we all know they're me-oriented. Now, we know some adults like that too, but we're just one with the 3 to 6-year-olds right now. They're the center of their own world. Their entire view of what is right and what is wrong is what their person that they're closest to has taught them. They believe everything that they've been told. That's exactly what's right and what's wrong. Cognitive level, preschoolers play as an interpretation or an expression of their life. Because what they experience and what they've been told is what reality is, no matter what, with a little B thrown in there. Okay, ages 6 to 8. Their moral development, they're kind of black and white, eye for an eye. You pinch me, I'm going to pinch you back. Their personal values are very, very black and white. Rule of the law. However, they tend to also think that if it's something they really like, it's good for them, Andy. And the things that they don't like, broccoli, isn't going to harm them. So they try to twist the rules a little bit to their own likes and dislikes. Their faith is also very black and white at this point in time. But what they believe is what they believe. So this is a phenomenal time because there is no hint of doubt in their belief. That is such a great time to teach a child. And that's just what makes it exciting for me, because they believe it. There's no hint of a doubt, none whatsoever. What they believe is fact. Their cognitive level, very concrete terms, not in the symbolic interpretations. They don't get. So, those kind of things, they just shouldn't be introduced in a classroom for 6 to 8-year-olds. Now, getting into the 9 to 12-year-olds. I love the way they put this. In the training material, they said they begin to question authority. Anybody has a 5th or 6th grader? What an understatement that is. They do question authority, and they're starting to learn shades of right and wrong. Instead of so concrete black and white, Mom comes out and says, "Do these pants make me look fat?" The child knows not to say, "Yes, Mom, you look like a heifer." She might say something instead like, "Okay, Mom, that's a really good color on you." Or maybe checks went out last year. But she wouldn't say you look like a heifer. They start to learn those shades of right and wrong. They develop individual values and individual personality types. That child who always wore the prettiest dresses and the cute little bows in her hair refuses to wear anything but blue jeans and t-shirts. The boy that would always comb his hair nice and come to church now wants to never take a bath and have his hair stand on end. Or always insist on wearing basketball shorts and gym shoes and nothing else. They develop their own values, their own things they like and dislike. But they also begin to understand that when they do things that are against the rules, there's more to it than just punishment from Mom and Dad or discipline from Mom and Dad because they broke the rules. That there might actually be a consequence to themselves. As in, they spend the night at their friend's house and they stayed up way too late until 4 in the morning, and then Mom picks them up to come to church the next day, and now they're dead on their feet. Okay, well maybe I shouldn't have stayed up till 4 in the morning at my friend's house. This is also a really great time that they can really start to personalize their faith. What does this have to do with me? How can I live this? Do I really have to, like, they start to put it inside themselves and let it shine on the outside because it's a personal faith. They really start to have that one-on-one relationship with God. And as in cognitive levels, we know that they still think in very concrete terms, but they do begin to understand the abstract. They can understand that just because you don't see God, that you can absolutely know that He is with you every step of the way. That's more of an abstract idea. Okay, so now we know about the expectations of the children. Reasonable ratios for adults and students. Always have you 2 adults with you. Always, always, always. For 3-year-olds and younger, 3 children to 1 adult is the max. For 3 to 6-year-olds, 5 children to 1 adult. For the rest, 1 adult to 10 children. This is per classroom. Or setting. Now, but if you have 10 kids, how many adults are you supposed to have? 2. Ah, very good. How old are they? I like that. Yeah, that was kind of a trick question. Yeah, that's right. But let's say they have a group of 4th and 5th graders. So you're 9 and 10-year-olds. 2 adults. You always have to have 2 adults. 2 adults per classroom setting. Excuse me. Okay. Appropriate behavior for teachers and leaders. Our behavior in the classroom is always to show the children that we value them and that we respect them. And we accomplish this by listening to them. I know, it's kind of weird, but you actually got to listen to them sometimes. Talk to them. Getting to know them and their specific needs is the very, very best way to shortcut any difficulties you might have in the classroom. Establishing a sense of trust early in the life of your class or your relationship with the children. It is essential to communicate, cooperation, and create a safe environment for them. Be consistent. That's where we like the rules and consequences. Are you listening when somebody else is talking? Okay. They know they're not. I mean, if they know what the expectations are, they know how to meet them. Take an interest in your students. Be mindful not to play favorites. I know it's hard. And be fair with each student. This is another point. The last point here is, on another slide, sorry. When possible, always praise in public. And when they need a little redirection, try to pull them aside so that they can save a little face. Because if they can save face, then the chances that they're going to behave differently is much greater. So you don't take them out on a one-on-one. Try to maybe pull them aside in the classroom because there's another adult there. And you can have a discussion with the other child. Aids in communication with children. Make eye contact, you know. And sometimes, you know, it's a look at them eyeball to eyeball to make sure that they hear what you're saying. Usually in a group, you just go from person to person in your classroom. But do make eye contact with them. When you see them in the halls, make eye contact with them. They love to be able to say hi by their teacher in the hall. They love that. Safe touch. Shoulders and hands. Be clear regarding acceptable behavior. With little ones, kneel. To be on the same physical level as them. That means so much. Use activities that keep the students involved. Take time to learn about each student. Listen to them, talk to them. Ask them about how their soccer game went. How was their gymnastics? Ask them. They love it when you remember things about them. Listen and be sensitive. This is the one that I was going to say. Listen and be sensitive to even the shy and quiet students. My daughter was pretty much ignored her entire kindergarten year because she was so quiet and so compliant. And she learned absolutely nothing. Because they were so busy with all the other students that were running around the classroom, they never had time for the quiet one. Don't forget the quiet one. They could be absorbing a lot. Okay, so what are we doing to keep our children and our workers safe? Screening of the staff and volunteers, which is the background checks and the references. Training of the staff, this class, which is required by the district conference every year. And I know that if you are a volunteer here, you had to you got a packet that had the child protection policy written on it, and that in the back you wrote things about your preferences, and then you filled out an application, and you said that you read this. And if you notice, this class is not reading this to you, because I'm not going to insult your intelligence, and I can expect you all to be able to read this, but this is the whole policy. You got to read it. And if you haven't read it in 5 years, read it again. It won't take you 15 minutes. But it really will help you understand what the standards are within the United Methodist Church. All staff and volunteers are required to follow the policy, so you might as well know it. And reporting child abuse. Even suspected child abuse. It needs to be reported. Those are the requirements. And when you fill out that application, you're saying that, yeah, I read this. So please read it. So for appropriate interpersonal boundaries. Now, it's basically how do you play with the children? And we do need to know the difference between childlike and childish. We can play very childlike. You don't want to be childish. You can run around and do the songs with them and do the crazy little motions, but you don't want to say, you didn't do that right. That would be childish. How come you didn't do that with me? That'd be more childish. It also refers to appropriate touch within our classroom settings. For our special connection friends, this is based on personal growth and development and not chronological age. Acceptable ways for touching a student. On the hand, on the shoulders, on the upper back. In the company of other adults. Because there's always how many people in the classroom? 2. Never against a child's will. Unless the child is about to do themselves harm. It's not an excuse to say, I know little Johnny doesn't like to be touched, so I'm really sorry I got to get by that car. I knew I wasn't supposed to grab him. No, you grab little Johnny so he does not run out there in front of the car. But only if a child does not want you to touch them, do not touch them. Never against their will. Never against a child's expressed, either verbally or non-verbally, and expressed discomfort. Some kids are very, very touchy-feely. Some of them, not. If they kind of pull away, don't touch them. Never in a way that would overstimulate the child. And never in a place where a student's body that is normally covered by a bathing suit. Never, ever, ever, ever. Non-acceptable behaviors. Embarrassing a student. especially about their body. Students should not sit in a leader's lap. I know that's hard, the little ones. Sometimes they need comfort. And you give them comfort. And then you get them out of your lap. You don't sit there the whole lesson with them in your lap. Telling stories or having conversations, now they use the terms lurid or overstimulating. I just said PG-13 or R, as we all know what that is. Giving somebody a deep back massage is considered inappropriate. Don't do it. So, that is the end of our class. Now, all of you should have in your packet that covenant form. Very good. I'm asking everybody who is in this class to please sign this. Because this is saying, yeah, okay, I've gone to the class, I've heard the requirements, I've heard the policy, I agree that I'm going to go with this. You want to go home and read the rest of the policy before you sign this? That's okay, but I'm going to give you a minute. I want you to read this. Like I said, I'm not going to read it to you. You guys are smart enough. Just read it yourselves and sign it, and we'll collect it. Yes, ma'am.
We didn't address hugs. Child wants to hug you. Is that appropriate or not? If they come running to you with
If they come running to you with open arms, I go, no, stop.
Get away from me.
No. You know, and some of our special connection kiddos, they're very much a hug. Give them a hug and then let go. If you can do the one-arm hugs are preferable, but some of the little ones come running at you like this. Don't damage their spirit. Don't crush their spirit. Give them a hug and then let go. And then, and then give yourself a little space. Give the hug, give yourself some space. Little ones especially come at you like this. Oh, please, give them a hug. That's fine. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. Now we're going to go to some specifics for each of the ministries. I know a lot of you do some crossover ministry. You help with youth, and you help with children, or you help with special connections, and you help, one or the other. So instead of separating you out, we're just going to tell you the information that kind of is very specific for each one of our ministries.
All right, so I've only got a few bullet points. She said most of the stuff. There's just a few things that I want to emphasize and kind of shedding the light on the difference between children's ministry and youth ministry. The first thing is sign-in. One of the things that is different in the transition from children's ministry to youth ministry is the fact that we have them sign in, but we don't have them sign out. So what we normally do is we talk with the parent, especially if they're coming up the first time, and the parent comes and signs them in. We kind of suggest to the parent, hey, why don't you have some type of a game plan, talk to your student or talk to your child, tell them where you want them to meet you afterwards, or where to go, or where to look for you. The other one is bathroom hallway. Okay, so mostly, I'm assuming everybody in here is familiar with this building. The hallway right there is not really a visible place when the main event of what you're doing is going on in here. It's very easy for a middle schooler or a high schooler to find their way into that hallway and just so happen to have to use the restroom during worship or during the message or during small group time. So what we like to do with the volunteers who help out in youth ministries, we'll assign somebody to sit in the hallway and kind of act as a hallway monitor. They don't really do much more than that. It's just really specifically to watch the traffic and make sure we know who's going where and what they're doing. One situation would be if a guy or a girl goes into the bathroom and they're in there for a long period of time. I think everyone in here would agree that would raise some type of suspicion what's going on. So at that point, we would either send, based off of what gender we're referring to, into either the guy's restroom or the ladies' restroom to check, see what's going on. Also, When we're not using the classrooms, we'll lock the classrooms. That's another opportunity for somebody to make the wrong decision. So we want to make sure that we eliminate those opportunities for them to make a wrong decision and help them along the way by locking the restrooms, having somebody in the hallway, so that we can kind of hold them accountable and eliminate some of that stuff about being a teenager. Hormones, whatever you want to call it. Okay, small groups. In youth ministry, we talk about a variety of things, all kinds of subjects, and we want to create a place, not to sound cheesy, but we want it to be a safe place, not just safe physically for them. We want it to be a safe place for them to be able to share what's going on in their heart, what's going on in their mind, what are they feeling spiritually, and be able to gain trust, and not just me, not just in the student next to them, but with our adult leaders. And so it's very important for us. It's something that we hold very, very dear. And I bring small groups up because it's a situation where it's very easy for a scenario to kind of form itself, to accidentally make a student feel uncomfortable. So it's something we really kind of talk about as small group leaders, is to really make sure all the students feel like they can share, and that we don't make in front of them regardless of what they share, that we are welcoming, we respect everybody's opinion. It's stuff that we have to continue to enforce, because it can often be forgotten, so we have to stay on top of that. That's really some of the big things that I would want to point out, in addition to what Ms. Carmelia said. And as you would assume, the rest of the stuff we've already gone over.
And now, one of our favorite topics, not diaper changing. Woohoo! Yeah, okay. I know. Believe it or not, there is a diaper changing policy. Who knew, right? Okay. It actually just posted on the places in Building 1 where you can change diaper. And we really, unless the parent of the child is around and is willing to change the diaper, we would like the parent to change them. But obviously in classroom settings, it happens. This is where we need a staff person. St. James really like a staff person to change the diaper. There'll be another adult in the room, but if there's a diaper that needs to be changed, that falls to staff. Now that's paid child care workers. Those are considered staff in this situation, and we need to make sure like there's another adult around too. But that's you guys are lucky. Yeah. Okay. So, in case you wanted to know what the diaper policy was. Place a clean paper towel under the baby before changing the diaper. You have to wear gloves before performing the diaper change. Place the dirty diaper, the dirty towels, and the latex glove in the trash cans on Sunday morning. If you're here, or the parent is here, and they change a diaper, and it's not Sunday morning, where we regularly go through and empty all the trash cans, please take them to the dumpster, because we don't want to find them 3 days later. Very bad. Wash your hands thoroughly. It's all over the news about the different germs and some parasites that are around that are passed from not washing your hands. So please, wash your hands all the time. Never leave the baby unattended. Yeah, okay. On the changing table. And don't put your food or drink on the changing table. I'm just telling you what it says, okay? Not that you want to lay your sandwich on the changing table. But, please. Not even 5 seconds. Not even 5 seconds. No. Cheerios, don't lay those on the goldfish. Don't put those on the changing table. Okay. And that's about the only, other than all the other things that we discussed earlier that are child specific.
These adults that are joys, but with our group we also have a third population. We have parents. So our sensitivities. Our sensitivities are with all three groups in mind.
A lot of our parents are coming to St. James after being asked to not come back or include their child at multiple other churches. So the way that we serve our kiddos is so that mom and dad can also have an incredible worship experience. And a lot of our training is in wording. So there are words that you never want to be called, right? I never want someone to call out the fact that I'm short and chubby. It's just rude, and I don't want to be called certain words. Just like our special needs kiddos do not want to be called certain words. They don't want to be called words like wheelchair bound, because they're not bound in a wheelchair, they happen to get around with a wheelchair. They don't want to be that autistic girl. That's not that autistic girl. That little girl is Allison, and she happens to have autism, just like I happen to have brown hair. We always try to use people first language. The child, the adult, the parent. They're not the special needs parent. They are Bob and Sue, who happen to be the parent to Jimmy, and he has autism. So we always want to make sure that the people that we're serving, we're really focusing on the person. All of us have something unique and quirky about us. I personally don't like scary movies. If you always said that weird girl that didn't like scary movies, it would really get to the point that I never wanted to be around you. This needs to be a safe, happy, friendly face for every child, no matter what they're dealing with, no matter what their diagnosis is. Now, the neat thing about Special Connections is when someone comes here, can I wander at all? I'm also a wanderer, so I'm like, oh! The neat thing about Special Connections is every kid has a folder. And if you're a Special Connections family, we are very sensitive. We don't say, before you can come to our church, you have an 8-page form that you have to fill out. That's not it. We don't care about the paperwork. We care about the child. We want to serve them best. If we don't know that your child needs help in the restroom, they can have a really embarrassing experience when they're here. So we have a 6-page form that has questions like, can your child eat on their own? What is your child allergic to? What are their fears? If a kid is terrified of balloons, let's not bring them into a room full of balloons. That's just not nice. So any kid that you have in any ministry, you are welcome to ask for that folder. And it literally has tips and tricks from past volunteers. We have one boy, and he's precious. But he's not overly verbal. He communicates in his own method. And we did not know that this young man could not be swung on a swing. What kid doesn't love a swing? And he seemed uncomfortable. Well, we just thought, whatever. We just kept on going. And sure enough, we swung him on that swing, and he came in, and he had an abdominal migraine and hurled all over 4 people. And the kid, once he threw up, he felt much better. We were a little sticky. Had we known in the form, please do not swing my child, it's not going to go well. That is now in there. We have it in about 6 places, and it's highlighted. So don't put him on a swing, whatever you do. And wet wipes can get puke out of anything. It's amazing. We also have a nurse kit going into that. Let's say that you have a kiddo that has special needs, and they might need a little extra help. We have a nurse kit with gloves. We have freezer packs. We have all the little extra things that might help them get to where they need to be comfortable. Along with that, some of our kids that have autism have sensory disorders. So little things like a sound is 90 times louder to them. They just can't get past the sound of the rain, and it's actually to the point that it's painful. We have headphones. There are headphones in each building. That's including adults. We want someone to be able to walk in off the street at any point and us be ready to greet them and meet their needs. So in all 3 buildings, there are 2 color headphones, yellow for kids, red for adults. That includes a sanctuary back at the sound booth. We do not use earplugs on this campus. I will say again, we do not use earplugs on this campus. There are kids with spectrum processing disorders that eat them. So you might think you're helping a child, and in actuality, we're causing a total medical problem. Please do, if you have them, do not offer them. Use the headphones. You can't need headphones. Another thing we have is a weighted blanket. We can always get that for you. Let's say that you see a kid just really uncomfortable. They're uncomfortable. The weighted blanket just provides enough to calm their senses, However, you always ask first, and always ask the parent first. Some people, there's an ethical line with weighted blankets. Don't just shove it on a kid. Just like I don't want you to shove a glass of water down my throat, let's not shove things at them. Let's give them a choice and let them, just like the human beings God created them to be, make that next step. Some of you all volunteer with Joyce, and you were like, why am I coming to this training? Our adults are considered vulnerable adults. We all know that some of them don't have the best decision-making abilities, and the line between yes and no is that of an 8-year-old. That's why you're here, because it's our jobs to protect them. We don't know who could come in off the street. We don't know who could come in for a joy service and appear just like our special needs friends as a typical adult, and have malintent. So that's why we have to follow the same rules. Always the 3 sets of eyes. Like Mark talked about the bathroom trips, same policies for the bathroom. If someone's in the bathroom a long time, let's make sure that's not become a social call, but that it's actually a biological call to the restroom, and stop whatever we need to stop at that point. Sally DePalma, all the Sally fans in the room? An incredible woman doing incredible work, left her ministry here to further that ministry to other churches. The packet that you have is from the One Roof Initiative. What they are doing is they are training churches how to pretty much be more like St. James, how to make it a welcoming place for others, and in that is some reception etiquette. If you see someone in a wheelchair, just like you wouldn't want me standing over you talking to you, please don't stand over them. Common etiquette, just like we appreciate, get on a common eye level. Pull up a chair. It's just how we want to be treated, same way to treat these people. Another thing is, if someone has canes, you might think that you're moving them so that there's more clear space on the floor, but you're also moving the only way that they have to walk. You're taking their legs. So always ask. And in a fire, they need to know where their canes are, where their walker is. Always just say, just so you know, is it okay if I take your walker and move it for you? And if something happens, your walker is right there. Make sure they understand. It's a safety issue for their lives as well as everyone else in the room. This has a lot of tips and tricks that you can easily just read through. It has a lot of the people first language. I am Carlene with brown hair, not that brunette girl. And one thing that is going to be key for our parents is the second page, appropriate language. If you ask me, Carlene, as the sister, oh, what's your brother's diagnosis? I would say, oh, my brother is physically handicapped, he has cerebral palsy with mental retardation. It doesn't offend me. However, it offends a lot of people. So we have to use the appropriate words. There are cognitive disabilities. On this form, it says mental retardation is actually outdated. These things change literally monthly. So the words that are appropriate, if you go in with the right heart, you don't need to be afraid of the words you're using. You can also say to someone, excuse me, I'm sorry, how do you want me to refer to your disability? Holy cow, if you show them that much respect as an individual, you're not testing them, you're not prodding them, you're treating them like the unique person that God made them to be. That's okay. If we tiptoe around our facts and our figures and our language, that's disrespecting at a whole different level. So this is a good starting point, but if you're not comfortable with what's on here, just ask someone like a friend would. Then we have like reception etiquette. Just because someone is blind does not mean that they're deaf. You don't yell at them. That happens a lot. People are blind, so they're like, hello! No, they're blind. It's their eyes. It's not their ears. Also visual impairments. At St. James, we have an older population. A lot of them have visual impairments. So it might also be nice if you notice somebody squinting, simple things like just getting up and saying, do you need a closer seat? I'd love to give you the better view. That's everybody across the board. Other than that, the only thing that's really different for us is diapering. At Special Connections events, we usually have a nurse if there is an opportunity where diapering might need to happen. As a volunteer, you don't need to diaper. Even with the rule of threes, you will not diaper. It will be the nurse. If there's not a nurse, it will be staff. Me. We really We don't diaper adults because if an adult is here, they probably have a companion with them. We do diaper some older kids, but you might be asked just to be a third set of eyes. But you're not going to actually have to do any of that, nor should you. And if someone asks you, let me know, because that's not okay. Other than that, does anyone have any questions? We follow all the same rules, especially the rule of 3.